Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam, and I finally watched The Crow. This was directed by Alex Proyas, who would go on to direct I, Robot, among others, and it starred Brandon Lee and was based on the comic book series of the same name. This was released in 1994, and it tells the story of a man named Eric Draven, played by Lee. He is the leader of a band and is set to be married on October 31st. However, the day before his wedding, his apartment is broken into by pretty much the worst human beings who ever lived, or at least in this movie anyway. His soon-to-be wife is assaulted, in the sexual way, several times over and would end up dying in the hospital, while Draven was shot and thrown out of a window doing a swanton bomb from about 6 stories up. Fast forward a year, and a crow brings back Draven's soul to seek vengeance upon the group of people who took away his life and his fiance's life. I've been wanting to review this movie for about a minute, but what finally tipped me over the top was one of my favorite subscribers, Aaron White. Now, if you've peered into one of my comment sections, you will more than likely have seen his comments there. He always leaves the best comments. And I actually reached out to him if he wanted to include anything in this review, because this is his favorite movie of all time. But he has said that he's not exactly a fan of being on camera. But he texted me something that he would like to say, and it is rather long, but I will put the full thing in the description. But I just wanted to read this part specifically. I don't know how I could fully explain in words the love I have for this movie, but I will try. As much as the film is about death and violence, there is the undertone of actually living to the fullest. It may be hard to see, but it is there. And he goes on quite a bit afterwards, but that was the quote that stuck out to me. The Crow, unfortunately, has a rather unfortunate legacy. In the making of the movie, the main star, Brandon Lee, was unfortunately killed after a stunt gone wrong. From what I have researched, it was something to do with a gun going off and Brandon Lee unfortunately being killed by the blank cartridges. It is truly a sad piece of business. I'll talk more about Lee's performance in the movie. Spoiler alert, it's awesome, but it really does make you feel sad, because especially in The Crow, he is so good in this that afterwards, it's just pretty much written in the stars that he was going to be a big deal. But I feel like he's kind of become a James Dean type, someone who we will never see the true potential of, but what we do see of him is truly excellent. There is also the ethical conundrum with the event of Brandon Lee's death, should the movie have been continued filming? Well, in my research, I found that pretty much all of Brandon Lee's shots where he is on camera were already filmed, so there wasn't an instance of it being out in bad taste, if that makes any sense. And in research, I found that there were several script rewrites and just general smoke and mirrors to mistake the fact that, Brandon Lee was sadly no longer with us. In a bit of interesting trivia, the stunt double for Lee in the movie was a man named Chad Stahelski. Now, if that name sounds any familiar to you, it should, because he's the director of the John Wick trilogy. Soon to be quadrilogy. No wonder why the first movie that he directs is a movie about revenge. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence. And I think that's as good a place as any to talk about Brandon Lee, because he is the heart and soul of this movie, and he pulls in a great performance. Not just from the physical standpoint, but just his general attitude, his charisma, his one-liners. They weren't cloying at all. They actually fit in with the tone, strangely enough, but it did. It wasn't like the sarcasm and the one-liners completely took away from the emotion of the moment, like some other comic book movies that have come out recently. Why is there a random poster of Thor Love and Thunder here? I don't know. But you could totally buy everything that the Crow was doing here. One of my favorite lines is the Crow saying, "They're dead already. They just don't know it yet." Not to mention the fact that the Crow's general look is just iconic. So much so that Steve Borden, the man who is the pro wrestler Sting, pretty much took the look whole cloth and has been rocking that same look for about 25 years or so. Not gonna lie, I'm sure that look made him a millionaire. Brandon Lee, though, is not the only person in here. The main villain is Top Dollar, played by Michael Wincott, who has been an actor for many years but has gained recent relevancy as Antlers in the movie Nope. He's not in the movie super much, he's more of the final boss type of character, but he more than has his fair share of just sinister moments. The real villains of the movie are the street gang that take out Eric and his wife. And they have just some of the general worst, most punchable names ever, like T-Bird, Skank, Funboy, and Tintin. That's his name. And they're just generally horrible people. Credit to this movie and its pacing. Literally 15 minutes in, Draven comes back from the dead, dons his signature look, finds Tintin, and disposes of him. Poetically. It was very satisfying. There are other characters in here as well, like the cop that helps the Crow quite often, named Albright, I believe that is his name, played by Ernie Hudson. Not going to lie, there's a fun moment in the movie where someone asks him if he thinks he's seen a ghost, and it was like, oh yeah, way to reference the one movie that everyone recognizes Ernie Hudson from. There's also Sarah, played by Rochelle Davis, and she gives a very good performance as well. Her and the Crow's dynamic is very wholesome, especially when the Crow drops lines like, "Can't rain all the time," and she just knows that it's Eric. It's good stuff. Speaking of rain, let's talk about the cinematography, because yeah, this movie is pretty much Rainy Dark City the musical. And that's not a knock. I actually do appreciate how this movie keeps a consistent tone of just Detroit being just the worst place on earth. There's one scene shot in the daylight. Rest of the time, it's just dank and dark. It almost kind of reminded me of Blade Runner, the OG Blade Runner. How you just feel wet and dirty just being in 2019 Los Angeles. I saw a Letterboxd comment that said the movie looks like a 90s rock music video, and yeah, I can't unsee that now. I could talk about this movie for days, but really, it would just be me gushing for just days and days. Honestly, you should go check out the movie for yourself. I would recommend you go check it out on Paramount Plus, which is kind of ironic considering that after Brandon Lee's death, they wanted nothing to do with the movie, and yet it's, well, up until today, on their very expensive streaming service. But like I alluded to, it is actually leaving Paramount Plus on July 31st. But if you're watching this still on July 31st, go check it out before it's off the service. I understand that there are Crow sequels, and I also am reliably informed that they are all very bad. I have a series on my channel called Scary Mania, where I review 31 horror movies in 31 days, so I have a feeling that I'm going to be checking out those sequels eventually. However, I will be delaying that for as long as possible. The show is absolutely amazing. It blew past even my highest expectations. It's a severely underrated comic book movie during a time where the comic book genre was dominated by silly Batman doing silly things and pretty much nothing else. And literally after this, we would get the awful Spawn movie, and it would take Blade and the X-Men to bring it back to some level of prominence before Marvel just took it to the stratosphere. But if you have seen The Crow, what are your thoughts on it? Leave them in the comments. I'd love to read what you have to say. And shout out to Aaron White for his note to me. Like I said, I will post the full thing in the description. It is very long, as is tradition. but he is one of my favorite subscribers. He always leaves just fantastic discourse and dialogue, and I highly recommend. I believe he's starting a Letterboxd, if what he has told me is correct. So when he does start the Letterboxd, I will let you all know. As far as next Sunday goes, I will be starting a review of a trilogy that I've been looking to review for quite some time. It is in a blind spot of my film knowledge, romance. And so for the next 3 Sundays, I will be covering the Before trilogy, starting off with next Sunday, where I will be covering Before Sunrise. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. That way, when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.